In a bustling city where the contrast between wealth and poverty is palpable, a young boy named Leo, 12 years old, fights daily to survive on the streets. An orphan for several years, he has never known the warmth of a stable home or the love of a family. His days are marked by the search for odd jobs, the hope of finding a bit of food, and the long hours of begging under the indifferent gaze of passers-by. Every street corner is a challenge, every morning a new trial, but Leo refuses to be defeated. His daily life is difficult, but he has learned to make do with little. He knows the places where he can find food scraps and which corners of the city offer small tasks in exchange for a few coins. Repairing bicycles, helping vendors carry their crates, or sometimes even running errands for elderly people, Leo accepts anything that allows him to survive. His clothes are worn and his shoes are torn, but he keeps moving forward, driven by an inner strength few of his age possess. Despite his precarious situation, Leo maintains a radiant smile, one that lights up his dirty and tired face. His eyes are full of curiosity and hope, and he refuses to let his misery affect his spirit. This smile, which he wears even in the hardest moments, is his greatest strength. Every day, he proves that it doesn't take much to be happy, just a generous soul and a pure heart. Leo often shares what little he has with other street children. He has become a sort of big brother to them, giving them courage when they feel lost. Sometimes, after earning a few pennies by repairing objects or singing for passers-by, he buys bread to share equally. He knows what it means to suffer, but he refuses to let anyone else go hungry when he can make a difference, no matter how small. At night, he sleeps under bridges or in makeshift shelters he builds with other homeless children. Cold and insecurity are his constant companions, but he never complains. On the contrary, in those moments of silence, he looks at the stars and dreams of a different life. A life where he wouldn't have to fight every day for a piece of bread, where he could go to school, learn, and perhaps one day become someone important. But deep down, he knows that what he desires most, far more than wealth or fame, is simply to belong to a family, to have someone to talk to who truly cares about him. The contrast around him is striking. While Leo struggles to survive, the city continues to live in indifference. Luxury cars pass by the windows of stores displaying unattainable items. People walk by, absorbed in their concerns, ignoring this child who blends into the background of the streets. Sometimes, he hears laughter coming from upscale restaurants or sees happy families in parks, and it causes a pang in his heart. He wonders what it's like to never be hungry, to feel safe, to be able to sleep without fear of what tomorrow might bring. But instead of envying these people, Leo stays true to himself. He finds strength in the small joys he encounters each day, whether it's a ray of sunshine warming his skin or the smile of another street child to whom he has extended a hand. He refuses to succumb to bitterness and anger, knowing that those emotions will lead him nowhere. Deep in his heart, he still believes that something beautiful is waiting for him, even if it seems distant and uncertain. One day, as he sells flowers in a park, Leo, as usual, greets passers-by with his radiant smile. He offers a small daisy to an elderly lady who thanks him warmly before continuing on her way. As he prepares to offer his flowers to a couple, his attention is drawn to a well-dressed man slowly approaching. Mr. DuPont, a millionaire businessman, is dressed in an impeccably tailored three-piece suit. His walk is confident, and he observes Leo with a curious, almost amused eye. Mr. DuPont is a respected, even feared, figure in the business world. He is known for his coldness, his lack of empathy, and his hard-heartedness. To him, success is measured in numbers, and human emotions are weaknesses he has long learned to ignore. However, when he sees this thin, dirty child, wearing worn clothes but wearing a sincere smile, he feels a strange curiosity. What could possibly motivate a boy like Leo, who seems so indifferent to material pleasures, while living in total deprivation? The child's innocence, his way of offering a flower without expecting anything in return, fascinates Mr. DuPont. He decides to test the value of this smile that unsettles him. In a calculated move, Mr. DuPont approaches Leo and, with a voice laced with condescending softness, hands him a bundle of bills. "Here, my boy, with this you can buy much more than these flowers you are selling. With this, you will never have to beg again." Leo, surprised, steps back slightly, first looking at the money, then at Mr. DuPont in the eyes. He remains silent for a moment, weighing the offer. This money could change his life, pull him out of hunger and cold. Yet something disturbs him. He feels that this gesture is not sincere. It's not real help, but rather a way for Mr. DuPont to amuse himself, to exert his power, as if playing with an expensive toy. After a few seconds, Leo gently shakes his head. "No, thank you, sir. I can't accept this. I don't want your money." His voice is soft but firm, and his eyes, shining with a wisdom beyond his years, never leave Mr. DuPont's. "I just need a friend." The millionaire, surprised and shocked, drops his hand and looks down at the money he was holding. For the first time in years, he doesn't know what to say. He, the powerful man, used to buying whatever he desires, has just been rejected by a street child. It seems absurd to him that such a destitute boy could refuse such a sum. And yet, Leo's gaze is sincere, and that sincerity completely disorients him. He gathers his thoughts and asks, almost incredulously, "But then, what do you really want?" Without hesitation, Leo replies, tears beginning to well up in his eyes, "I just want someone to take the time to sit with me and listen to my dreams. I want a father, someone who cares about me, not money." These words hit Mr. DuPont like a slap. For a moment, he is lost in his own memories, those of a childhood where he too dreamed of having a present father, a parent who would listen to him rather than simply fund his needs. In his relentless pursuit of material success, he had forgotten the essentials, the value of human relationships, love, and the attention we give to others. He had locked himself in a golden solitude, far removed from everything that had once been authentic in his life. Mr. DuPont feels a lump form in his throat. For the first time in a long while, he experiences something authentic. Emotion rises within him. He realizes that despite all his fortune, he has never truly listened to anyone, nor sought to understand the needs of others, especially those like Leo who are invisible to society. Perplexed, he slowly puts the money back in his pocket and, without saying a word, sits down on a bench next to Leo. Leo watches him for a moment, intrigued by this unexpected gesture, then smiles gently, as if he had known all along that money was not the answer. A silence falls between them, but it is a peaceful one. For the first time, Mr. DuPont lets go of the businessman mask and opens himself to this moment of sharing. Leo begins to talk about his dreams, the life he imagines, the small joys that allow him to keep hope. He talks about his days, his friends on the street, and what he would like to accomplish if he had the means. Mr. DuPont, usually so distant, listens with an attention he had never allowed himself before. As the hours pass, a connection forms between them, an unexpected yet deep connection. They're not so different after all. Both have known loneliness, but it has manifested differently. For Leo, it was the absence of a loving family, the coldness of nights spent alone, and the lack of support. For Mr. DuPont, it was emotional loneliness, locked in the silence of financial transactions and superficial encounters. This moment of vulnerability, shared in a park that could have been ordinary, becomes a turning point for both of them. Touched by Leo's innocence, wisdom, and sincerity, Mr. DuPont feels a surge of tenderness he hasn't felt in a long time. It's as if this young boy has awakened a part of humanity in him that he thought he had buried under years of material success and cold ambition. Finally, Mr. DuPont stands up, but this time, his heart is different. He feels lighter, but also more aware. He looks at Leo, who gazes at him with curious eyes, waiting for a reaction. Mr. DuPont, overcome with emotion that he can no longer contain, kneels before the boy and, with a trembling voice, says, "Leo, you have opened my eyes to what really matters in life. I want to offer you something if you want it. From today, you will no longer be alone. You will be my adopted son." Leo's eyes widen, his heart pounding in his chest. He, this little street child, was going to have a family? The surprise and emotion are so overwhelming that he cannot speak, but the tears that flow down his face say it all. Mr. DuPont, feeling a peace he had never known, smiles gently before adding, "Thank you, Leo. You reminded me that true wealth is not what we accumulate, but what we share. From today, I want to share my life with you and with other children like you." From that day forward, Mr. DuPont changes profoundly. He no longer simply accumulates wealth for himself, but dedicates his time and resources to helping underprivileged children. He establishes an organization that cares for orphans, offering them education and, most importantly, a home. Mr. DuPont becomes a mentor and a father figure to dozens of children, giving them far more than money. He gives them love, attention, and a chance to realize their dreams. As for Leo, he discovers a new life, an existence filled with warmth and stability he had never imagined possible. Gone are the cold nights spent searching for a safe place to sleep. No more worries about whether he would eat the next day. Every morning, he wakes up in a room of his own, a place where he feels safe and loved. He no longer has to stretch out his hand to beg or sell flowers to survive. For the first time, Leo can be a child, a real one, with dreams, games, and a future to build. But what matters even more than guaranteed meals and a roof over his head is the presence of Mr. DuPont, who has become so much more than a benefactor. This millionaire, once hard and distant, has transformed into a true father for Leo. Together, they build a deep relationship based on affection, listening, and trust. Mr. DuPont learns to be attentive to Leo's emotional needs, discovering the simple joys of sharing quality time. Whether it's walks in the park, conversations about their dreams, or evenings spent reading stories before bed, each moment shared brings them closer. For Leo, the most beautiful surprise is discovering that he is finally allowed to dream. He is no longer a prisoner of the immediate need to survive. With Mr. DuPont's support, he allows himself to imagine a future full of possibilities, becoming a doctor to help others, opening a shelter for street children, or even, one day, running the organization that Mr. DuPont has founded for underprivileged children. The dreams that once seemed as distant as the stars suddenly become accessible. And it's not just Leo's life that changes. Mr. DuPont, the man once known for his coldness and indifference, discovers a new calling. Adopting Leo is just the beginning of a much larger commitment. Inspired by the innocence and wisdom of his adopted son, he decides to dedicate a large portion of his fortune and time to helping children in similar situations. He launches educational programs, shelters, and initiatives to offer not only material aid, but also emotional support and a loving environment to those in need. Mr. DuPont's actions have a profound impact on his community. What began as a single act of compassion towards a young boy transforms into a movement that touches thousands of lives. He proves to everyone that true wealth does not lie in the accumulation of material goods, but in the ability to make a difference in the lives of others. By opening his heart and sharing what he has learned from Leo, he inspires other wealthy and influential people to question themselves, reevaluate what really matters. Together, Leo and Mr. DuPont become a symbol of the transformation that a simple act of compassion can bring. Their story resonates far beyond their own lives, showing that no matter the weight of material wealth, it is love, listening, and support that are the true treasures. Leo, once an orphan and homeless, and Mr. DuPont, once isolated in his fortune, prove that changing the world often begins with a simple moment of humanity shared between two people. Their intertwined lives show how an act of kindness can break the barriers of loneliness, poverty, and indifference. Together, they demonstrate that happiness does not come from what we possess, but from what we give to others. And in doing so, they change not only their own lives, but also the lives of so many others, one encounter at a time. As the months pass, Leo and Mr. DuPont build a life together, far beyond what either could have imagined. Leo thrives in his new environment, surrounded by love and stability, while Mr. DuPont continues to transform, driven by the desire to make the world better for children like Leo. One day, at a charity event organized by Mr. DuPont to promote his organization helping underprivileged children. Leo speaks before a large assembly of donors and influential guests. Shy at first, but encouraged by his adoptive father's kind gaze, he tells a story, that of a boy who lived on the street and who, one day, met a man capable of seeing beyond poverty and appearance. With emotion, Leo explains how a simple gesture of friendship and listening changed his life, leading him to discover a new family and a new destiny. "What I want to say today is not that money doesn't matter," begins Leo, his eyes shining with hope. "But sometimes, what we really need is for someone to take the time to see us, to listen to us, to believe in us. That's what saved me. And I know it can save other children too." The applause echoes in the room, but it is Mr. DuPont's gaze that matters most to Leo. It is filled with pride and love. After this speech, something bigger begins to unfold. Inspired by Leo's words, many guests decide to support Mr. DuPont's initiative, not only financially, but also by committing to give their time and personally engage in the lives of the children they want to help. From that evening, a wave of solidarity and humanity spreads throughout the city and beyond. Mr. DuPont's programs expand, touching thousands of young people in need. And everywhere they go, Leo and Mr. DuPont become living symbols of what love, compassion, and commitment can accomplish. But the story doesn't end there. A few years later, Leo, now a young man, decides to honor the promise he made to himself back on the street, to help those who are in the same situation he was once in. With the support of his adoptive father, he takes charge of part of the organization and creates new projects aimed not only at providing material resources, but also educational and professional opportunities for disadvantaged youth. One day, while walking through the same park where it all began, Leo feels a wave of nostalgia as he observes the surroundings. The trees that shade the benches, the rustling of the leaves, the laughter of children playing nearby, all remind him of the boy he once was, alone and vulnerable, but filled with silent dreams. This park, which witnessed his meeting with Mr. DuPont, is now a place full of precious memories. As he walks, Leo spots, from a distance, a young boy sitting alone on an old bench. His clothes are tattered, dirty, and worn, his face marked by exhaustion, and in his frail hands, he holds a few wildflowers, probably picked near the park. The boy has that look that Leo knows all too well, a mix of resignation and tenacity, quiet hope, and hidden sadness. Leo has worn that gaze himself years ago. His heart full of memories and emotions, Leo slows his step. The image of this child, almost a reflection of his past, stirs deep feelings within him. He sees himself in this boy, a child left to his own devices, trying to sell flowers for a few coins, while searching for something bigger than money, a little warmth, recognition, a hand reaching out. Without hesitation, Leo approaches the child and gently kneels down to his level, being careful not to startle him. His face lights up with a kind smile, a smile full of understanding and tenderness. The child looks up shyly, surprised that a stranger is taking the time to pay attention to him. He expected to be ignored, as he had been so many times before. But Leo does not look away. He smiles at him, not out of pity, but with real kindness. In a soft voice, Leo asks, "And you, what are your dreams?" The boy, initially hesitant, looks at his feet, as if this question is too precious to answer lightly. No one has ever asked him what he truly wanted, what lay behind his efforts to survive. He hesitates again, then slowly lifts his head. His eyes, shining with a mixture of surprise and hope, search Leo's for a sincerity he quickly finds. This is not a meaningless question. The man, who has knelt in front of him, seems genuinely interested in knowing the answer. I want to be a pilot," the boy says in a barely audible voice, as if he doesn't dare to believe in his own dream. "To fly above the clouds, see the world from up high." Leo, touched by these words, nods softly. This dream, pure and full of innocence, reminds him of how powerful hope can be, even in the most difficult circumstances. He remembers the boy he once was, and that crucial moment when a stranger took the time to listen to him, believe in him, and offer him not money, but a real chance to change his destiny. "That's a beautiful dream," Leo responds, his heart moved. "And I know you can make it come true. When I was younger, I had dreams too, and someone helped me achieve them." The boy, surprised by this confession, watches Leo with greater attention. Leo doesn't look like the other passers-by. He doesn't seem distant or hurried. He truly seems to understand what the child is going through, as if he's been through the same thing. "You know," Leo continues, "there are people who want to help children like you. People who believe in your dreams and can give you the means to make them happen. If you want, I can help you." The child stays silent for a moment, absorbing this offer, wondering if he can really believe such an opportunity. Then, slowly, he nods, hope dawning in his eyes. Leo smiles more broadly. "All right. Then let's start with something simple. Follow me, and I'll introduce you to people who can help you fly toward your dream." They rise together, and as Leo walks beside the boy, he feels filled with pride and gratitude. He knows that what he is doing today is giving back to another child what he himself had received: hope, support, and the conviction that dreams, even the wildest ones, can become reality with the love and kindness of others. Together, they leave the park, leaving behind the memories of a painful past, but carrying with them the promise of a brighter future. Leo knows that just as Mr. DuPont had transformed his life, he is now in a position to do the same for others. This is how the circle of compassion continues, proving that every small act of kindness can spark a change and transform lives for the better. And as they walk away, Leo takes one last look at the bench where it all began, with the certainty that this cycle of generosity, from dream to dream, will never stop. Leo's story comes full circle, demonstrating that every act of kindness can create a chain of compassion that continues endlessly. This cycle, begun by a simple gesture from Mr. DuPont, keeps growing through Leo, who is no longer the orphan he once was, but a man transformed by the love and support he received. Now at the head of a vast network to help underprivileged children, Leo uses his personal experience to inspire and restore hope to thousands of young people. This network, born from the unlikely meeting of a disillusioned millionaire and a boy with a big heart, has built homes for orphans, funded education for those who dreamed of it, and offered a promising future to so many children who, like Leo once did, thought life had nothing good in store for them. Every day, Leo repeats the same gestures of kindness, ensuring that each of these children understands that their worth is not measured by what they own materially, but by the strength of their dreams and the generosity of their hearts. Leo has learned, just like Mr. DuPont before him, that true wealth is not found in what we receive, but in what we give. What he offers to these children is not only material help, but also an unwavering belief in their potential and their future. Every young person he meets becomes a light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance to shine. Mr. DuPont, aging but happy to see the work he helped build, continues to accompany Leo on this life mission. What had started as a selfish challenge on his part has become the most important work of his life. He has found in Leo a son, but also a friend, an heir to his values, and together they are building a fairer and more compassionate world. And so, in this world often divided by inequality, where poverty and wealth seem to create insurmountable barriers, Leo and Mr. DuPont, bound by a shared love and humanity, continue to prove that the greatest treasure one can possess is the treasure of the heart. Through their actions, they demonstrate that every small spark of kindness can ignite a fire of solidarity, capable of warming the most lost souls and changing lives forever.